I've been thinking about The Evil Dead as cosmic horror, and I know that sounds kind of odd at first because I know this is not what people usually think of when they think of the Evil Dead franchise. Most people hear The Evil Dead and they think of the cabin, the Book of the Dead, the Deadite, the blood, the chainsaw, the shotgun, and Ash Williams surviving things that should have killed him 100 times over. That is all part of it. This franchise is very messy, physical, ridiculous at times, and very proud of being all those things. What I'm interested in is the idea sitting underneath the mess. Because the more I look at these movies, the more I keep coming back to the same thing. People in The Evil Dead don't suffer because they know nothing. They know a little, and that's why they suffer. They know the book matters, they know the words matter, they know that possession is happening, they know that they're, for the most part, screwed. They know that there may be a ritual, a weapon, a method, something, some piece of knowledge that gives them something to do. The problem is that knowing something is not the same thing as having control, and that's where I think the cosmic horror comes in. Not because there's a giant creature in space, or because the story occasionally borrows things from Lovecraft. The Necronomicon connection is there, obviously, and the idea of forbidden knowledge is important, but I think the whole this is cosmic horror because Necronomicon, or Book of the Dead, is way too easy. The stronger idea, at least for me, is that these movies keep showing people reaching for knowledge and still not even able to fully understand or comprehend what they're up against. Hey everybody, how you doing? It is I, Brandy, otherwise known as the Terrorific Lady, and welcome back to Retro Horror School, where we discuss, dissect, and analyze horror from the 70s through the 2010s, and talk about horror like it matters because it does. For this video about the Evil Dead franchise and cosmic horror and its connections to cosmic horror, I'm only going to talk about the movies. So, all the movies from The Evil Dead 1981 to the one that is most recently released, Evil Dead Burn. No show, no comics, no games, movies only. I also just want to say that even though that I think that this franchise is cosmic horror, it doesn't stop being possession horror. It doesn't stop having splatter or gore, because it does have those things. It also, at certain points in the franchise, becomes horror comedy. It goes full possession for a while, and then later it becomes brutal again. One thing I'm asking is whether possession is the way that it brings cosmic horror kind of down from the cosmos and puts it right in front of our faces. Because the Deadites are the thing that we can see, the body, the face, the violence. The force behind them is where the argument gets interesting.
Listen to this. This is the tape I found downstairs.
The first movie works because the setup is so simple. Nobody knows what the heck is going on. They're not trying to gain power or perform some elaborate ritual with 100% awareness of the consequences. They find a tape and they play it. That's really all it takes. The danger was already there before they arrived. The professor found the Book of the Dead and studied it. He translated enough of it to let people know, yo, this is something that you should not be messing with. And his voice is on the tape, just waiting for someone to come along and press play. This detail is both and ooh to me, because the tape is knowledge that has outlived the person that has handled it. Somebody got close to the book, recorded what he found, and then just left away for evil to enter the room. Gah! The professor tells them that the book was found in the ancient ruins of Kandar. He tells them that it is bound in human flesh and written in human blood. He explains that the incantations can awaken dormant spirits and allow them to possess the living. That is a lot of information that doesn't save them. It gives them context as to what they're dealing with, but it doesn't save them. And it doesn't destroy the fact that the person in front of them can suddenly become someone that they don't even know. That is useful in the worst possible way, because in a lot of horror stories, learning the rules of the game at least give the characters some sort of fighting chance. Once you know the monster's weakness, the story starts moving towards a solution. Here, the information makes the nightmare more specific. Cheryl is in the cellar, and she's not Cheryl anymore, at least in any kind of meaningful way. The cabin feels contaminated. The forest feels aware. Their friends and everybody else there become mocking, laughing, evil versions of themselves. And nobody has enough time to process the horror of that before the next awful thing happens. Even dismemberment, which is technically a method, is not very reassuring. It may stop the Deadite from using the body, but it doesn't explain the force behind it, or make anyone feel like that they understand what they're dealing with. By the end of the movie, the book is burned, the bodies are gone, the sun comes up, and you think you're gonna have some kind of relief. No. The force then comes for Ash anyway. That ending refuses the usual comfort of a final person surviving the night. Ash made it to morning, but morning does not restore order in any way. The evil is still moving, the book may be gone, at least in that moment. The bodies may be destroyed, but the force itself does not yet feel finished. That is where the first movie starts feeling larger than its setting. The cabin is where it happens, but it's not where the problem begins or ends. When people talk about cosmic horror, the scale of things comes up very quickly. We think of the universe, ancient gods, humans being too small and insignificant to matter in the grander scale of the universe. But I don't think that scale always has to be literal. Sometimes the scale comes from realizing that your world can end all in one place, and the rest of the world will just keep moving because they have no idea that anything happened. That feeling runs all throughout Evil Dead. Inside the cabin, reality breaks. Death stops behaving as it should. The body becomes unreliable. A friend can still look like your friend and be something totally different. And outside that cabin, nothing changes. No one knows. No one understands. No one can look at what's happening and recognize the size of it. To the people inside, it's the end of the world. To everybody else, it's just another Tuesday. And that to me is a private sort of apocalypse. The franchise keeps returning to that. The location changes, but the meaning stays. A cabin, a high-rise apartment building, a decrepit house out in the middle of nowhere. Those are contained spaces to where the horror becomes everything to the people trapped inside, while the surrounding world stays unaware or out of reach. Evil Dead Rise makes that idea frustrating because it's not set out in the woods, it's set in Los Angeles. There are neighbors and streets, there are people nearby, the outside physical world is very close, but it still cannot really reach them. After the earthquake, the building becomes its own kind of sealed off space. The power is out, the elevator doesn't work. Beth, Ellie, and the kids are trapped in an apartment where the rules of ordinary life have begun to collapse, even though ordinary life is still technically right outside. The scene where Beth screams down at the man through the window is such a good example of this. There's a man that feels close enough that help is possible, but he cannot see her or hear her, especially through the rainstorm. He just keeps going. No one makes some grand choice to just not help. The world just simply misses her and moves on. Inside, Ellie is becoming something that uses motherhood as a weapon. Outside, it is bad weather and someone walking away. It's a cruel contrast because the apocalypse is happening right upstairs and nobody else in the outside world even seems to notice. This is one of the reasons that I think the cosmic feeling in these movies does not need to come down to some grand overarching scale. Human smallness can do a lot of that work on its own. Evil Dead 2 gives us more mythology, and this is where the argument gets messier in more of a useful way. Annie brings the missing pages, the book becomes the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. We get portals, ancient forces, and the hero from the sky prophecy. The movie gives us more information than the first one did, and normally more explanation can make a movie feel smaller. If a story explains the system too neatly, the unknown starts turning into lore. Names, rules, categories, backstory. At some point, the thing that scared you starts becoming a list of terms. Evil Dead 2 does not fully fall into that category because having all that extra information does not give Ash an easy win. They find the ritual, force the Kandarian demon to manifest, open the portal, and banish it. Then Ash gets pulled into the past. It's funny because the movie is funny, but it also fits the pattern. The characters gain more knowledge, they use that knowledge, and they do not fully control the outcome. Ash knows more than he did before, he survives more, he fights better, he becomes more familiar with the nightmare, and that familiarity makes him seem more capable than he actually is. Experience is not the same thing as mastery, and that becomes even more clear in Army of Darkness, which is the hardest movie to place in this argument because on the surface it's doing something totally different. It's a medieval fantasy adventure with skeleton armies and a much more comedic tone. If someone looks at Army of Darkness and says, this doesn't look like cosmic horror at all, I could definitely understand that. I think my argument has to admit that up front. But this movie still keeps the franchise's problem of knowledge alive. Ash is told the words that he needs to say before taking the book. Klaatu Barada Nikto. 3 words. Ash has one job, and the job is just remembering 3 words, and he forgets 1.
Klaatu Barada.
He tries to mumble through it like, close enough. The scene is funny because it's a little stupid. But it's also the franchise being very clear that partial knowledge is dangerous. You can have the instruction, know it matters, and still screw up badly enough to wake the dead. That matters for Ash because the whole Chosen One idea can make the whole cosmic horror reading just fall completely apart. A chosen hero suggests order. It suggests that someone has a role, that the universe has a plan, and that the evil can be met by the correct person at the correct time. Ash does not make that idea feel comforting, and being chosen does not make him careful. It doesn't make him wise, and it doesn't make him fully understand what he has been pulled into. He can be important to the story and still be outmatched by the larger forces surrounding him. He is not insignificant in the normal sense because the movies obviously care about Ash a lot. The larger point is that importance does not necessarily equal control. The 2013 Evil Dead brings the franchise back to a much harsher place. Eric reads from the book, and Mia becomes the first major target. The information is more specific this time. The Taker of Souls needs 5 souls to be sacrificed to it for the abomination to rise. To stop Mia after she becomes a Deadite, she has to be purified through dismemberment, alive burial, or burning. Again, that knowledge is not useless, it's important. The movie does give them options, as gruesome as those options are. The book does not offer a clean rescue. It gives them a set of very terrible choices and leaves them to figure out, okay, can we actually do any of these choices? Do we have it in us? Mia's addiction makes the setup even more upsetting because when she's like, hey, something is wrong, there's already a reason to doubt her. She is surrounded by people, but she is still isolated because her fear is being filtered through what they think they know about her. The evil steps into a situation where trust is already damaged. That is part of what makes the possession in this movie feel so cruel. It is taking over a body and exploiting everything around that body too. The phrase I kept coming back to in my notes is that possession treats the body like a playground. The evil does not care what happens to the body. It can hurt it, twist it, infect it, bury it, burn it, cut it apart, and keep going. Because it's not the one that has to live in it. It doesn't care. And that's where possession starts to feel cosmic to me. The horror is not only that a person can die. I mean, that's horrific enough on its own, but that's not the only horror. It's that everything that we as humans attach to the body, identity, memory, relationships, the idea that the person is still them, can be stolen and used by something that doesn't value any of it. The Deadites keep enough of the person to make it hurt. They know voices, memories, relationships. They can sound like someone you love. They can ask for help, say the thing that makes you hesitate, and then they use that hesitation. They understand human attachment well enough to weaponize it, but they don't respect it. That is an ugly idea, the person and the body to the survivor. The relationship matters to the survivor. And to the evil, all of that is material. And it's also where Army of Darkness weakens the argument a little. The Skeleton Army is not doing the same kind of psychological violation that Cheryl is doing to Ash, that Mia is doing to her brother and friends, or that Ellie is doing to her family. The franchise is not equally cosmic in every entry, and I don't think it needs to be. Across the movies, though, possession keeps returning to the same fear. The self is not protected as we want it to be. A face can become a trap, a voice can become bait, a memory can be used against you.
Mommy's with the maggots now.
Evil Dead Rise takes that identity horror and brings it to the family. Ellie is the mother. She is supposed to be the person that her kids can trust. She is the one who knows the apartment, knows the family, knows what everyone needs, even when things are already hard. So the evil taking her first or taking her over first is not random. It changes the whole emotional shape of the movie. Danny finds the Book of the Dead after an earthquake opens up the hidden chamber, and the records, the vinyl records, become a new version of the tape recorder from the original, or an older version, depending on how you look at it. Anyway, past research survives long enough to ruin more people. Beth ends up listening to the records because she needs answers. What she gets is a recording of the priest who failed. He studied the book. He kept going. The words were said. His allies were possessed. The only thing that stopped the Deadites temporarily was the destruction of the host. That's information technically, but it's not comforting. Beth doesn't learn how to save everyone, she just learns more about the kind of nightmare that she's already in. Ellie's possession is disturbing because the Deadite uses her role in the family. It turns motherhood into something threatening. The apartment becomes wrong. Home becomes wrong. The person who should feel safe becomes the thing standing outside the door. That's why the
"You must run. All you can do is run"
moment works for me. Yeah, it's blunt, but I don't mind blunt when the movie has earned it. You can know this has happened before. You can listen to records and learn about what temporarily stopped Deadites in the past. But the larger force is still an utter question mark. Maybe you can destroy the body and buy yourself time, and maybe you can survive this specific night, but that's not the same thing as understanding what this evil is or ending it for good.
My grandfather believed.
Evil Dead Burn makes the argument more complicated because the Kandarian dagger appears to work. Joseph has his grandfather's research. He knows all about the Necronomicon and the Deadites. He has the dagger, and later on, Alice is able to use it against Joseph, the Deadite dog Max, and Will. That matters. If the argument was knowledge never helps, then this movie would be a problem. The dagger helps, the research helps. Alice survives because she has something concrete to use against what is coming after her. The real issue is that surviving the immediate outbreak still does not mean that all this is finished. The grandma is still possessed. She gets out. A motorist finds her. The grandma scratches the motorist, infects her. The cycle begins again. That ending keeps the pattern intact. The characters may stop what's right in front of them, but evil always finds another route. Looking across the franchise, that keeps happening. The first movie burns the book, and the spirits are not gone. Evil Dead 2 banishes the demon, and Ash is pulled into another time. Army of Darkness gives Ash the words, and he still manages to get them wrong. The 2013 film lets Mia destroy the abomination, but the book still remains intact. Rise destroys the Marauder's body, while the spirit still remains the bigger issue. Burn gives Alice the dagger, and the possession still manages to escape to someone else. That is the part I keep coming back to. The answers are real and incomplete at the same time. The rules help with the immediate problem, but then the larger problem shifts all around them. I don't think the strongest version of this argument is Evil Dead is pure cosmic horror. These movies are too physical and they're too openly demonic. At least to fit into the cold, distant version of cosmic horror that people usually think of. The Deadites are not quiet and different gods that are somewhere off in the cosmos and beyond reality. They are loud, personal, theatrical, and cruel. They mock people directly. They enjoy the performance of it. The counter-argument is strong. These are splatter possession movies that borrow Lovecraftian imagery. I agree with part of that. I just don't think that explains everything that these movies are doing. Cosmic horror doesn't always have to look like the universe ignoring us from a distance. Sometimes it can come from realizing that the categories that human beings depend on do not matter to the thing we've encountered. Worth is a human concept, fairness is a human concept, and meaning is a human concept. With the Evil Dead, the force is not cold in that distant sort of way. It is aggressive, it is mocking, it gets close enough to you to use your body and the bodies of people around you, and close enough to use the memories of the people that love you against you. That is where cosmic horror lives for me. It is underneath the possession. It is in the way that knowledge becomes contamination. It is in the way that survival means carrying information you were never meant to live with. It is in the way every isolated location becomes the whole world for the people that are trapped up there, while the real world continues on outside. It is in the way that evil could take a body, a voice, a face, a family role, and use it without caring what any of it meant before. I don't think this reading is meant to replace the possession horror interpretation. I just think it adds another layer to it. Possession is how the cosmic horror reaches people. The Deadite is the face right in front of you. The force behind it is the part that never really feels knowable. Even after 6 movies worth of books, records, weapons, rituals, and prophecies, the franchise keeps changing shape. Cabin horror, horror comedy, fantasy adventure, brutal remake, high-rise family horror, decrepit house and people possession story. The same pattern keeps showing up anyway. Someone finds the knowledge and thinks that the rules will be enough, but someone learns that the rules were only part of it. That is what makes the franchise feel bigger to me than taking away from what it already is. I don't need Evil Dead to stop being gross, chaotic, funny, or violent for the cosmic reading to work. Those things are already part of its identity. The cosmic horror is already in the after effects. The realization that the Deadites are not only monsters to be killed, they are signs of something moving larger through whatever opening human beings keep giving it. The scariest part isn't that human beings know nothing, it's that human beings can know something and still not be in control. So is the Evil Dead pure cosmic horror? I think it's cosmic horror filtered through a specific lens, a lens of possession, splatter, fantasy, comedy, and body horror. Once I started looking at it that way, the cabin stopped feeling like the whole problem. It felt like the place where the problem happened to break through. Same with the apartment in Rise, same with the house in Burn. These places are small, but the thing moving through them never really feels contained by them. Thank you so much for watching this video about the Evil Dead franchise and if it's cosmic horror. What do you think? Do you see the Evil Dead as cosmic horror? Or do you think possession horror is still the stronger reading? Let me know in the comments. And if you want some more cosmic horror type readings of certain movies, I will have a few links in the description and a video for you to check out that I really think you might like. But as always, thank you so much for being here. Class is dismissed for now. But I will see you next time.